Greetings to all, Chancellor North Wales here. Time for the January 2019 build, the Mil Mi-4 Hound from KP Models. The Mi-4 was designed in response to the American H-19 Chickasaw and the deployment of helicopters during the Korean War. While the Mi-4 superficially resembles the H-19, Westland and the Westland Whirlwind, it is a larger helicopter and is able to lift more weight and cargo. The Mi-4 laid the beginning of the Soviet Army Aviation and was widely used both in the armed forces and in the civilian environment for several decades and remained the main type of helicopter until the advent of the Mi-8. Albania was thought to be the final country using the helicopter until one of them was spotted pootling around North Korea in 2014. The Mi-4 played a major role in the Bangladeshi Liberation War of 1971 and was a workhorse of the Indian Air Force during the 1970s and 80s. Here's weights dimensions. You can pause this a bit, take a look. So 1 or 2 pilots capable of carrying 16 troops and powered by a Shetsov ASH 82V radial engine. Maximum speed 185 knots. And there's a picture of it supporting some T-54s. I believe that's in check markings with the rocket pods. It was one of those aircraft that was used all across the Warsaw Pact and countries with ties with Russia. That pic there shows the installation of the big radial engine in the front and with the cowlings open. Interesting, that's a feature it shared in common with the H-19. And there is an H-19 in comparison, a somewhat smaller machine, no rear camshell doors. And there we have it with the Indian Air Force, where it did make something of a name for itself. I bought the kit a few years back from Telford, not sure how much it was for, but it was a while back and it's just been in the stash for a while, so I felt if I wanted to build an Mi-4, now's the time to do it. The smaller parts have soft detail and aren't of the best quality, however the rotor blades are pre-curved for natural sag. So, not entirely happy with it, but yeah, okay. Though the basic quality of the 2 main sprues isn't too bad, with recessed panel lines and some fine details like the crew access plates and the hatches, that kind of thing. The decal sheet is okay with markings for 5 aircraft from 5 nations. There is no info in the instructions on the location of the small stenciling. That is something I felt was a bit of an issue with this kit, and the red stars were actually too big as well. The instructions are basic and not at all clear. You really have to go over these a number of times to make sense of them, particularly again the location of some of the smaller components. The painting guide, is not too clear, especially for the Russian Mi-4. They could have done with more views, and I did struggle to follow that. Construction began with a cabin and cockpit. I added structural elements to busy it up, but I know they are oversized. That's all done with the plastic strip. You follow the pattern of the external structural members. I've done this plenty of times before and it just makes things a bit more interesting. The internal structure follows the external main panel joints. I painted it in lighter tones as it's hidden inside. I'm not sure it was worth the effort in this case. The area behind the cockpit where the gearbox would be located was painted black to hide it. Just creates a deep shadow. And that's it sealed up. You can see the seats inside. I didn't add lap belts for the crew. For a change, I mostly used quadrant green putty in this, as it needed more drying time, but it was better for filling the heavy gaps and steps. I often find that scratch building an interior makes internal fits trickier. Many of the seams were filled, sanded and reworked, and there was considerable rescribing. I dressed the cockpit a bit with the addition of seat belts and collective controls. The overhead switch panel was masked either side and painted black and dry brushed. Fitting the glazing was a pain, especially the side panels behind the sliding doors. They took a lot of fiddling about. After masking, it was undercoated with Tamiya light grey. The filling and sanding process obliterated the lines and the detail for the prominent engine vents on the nose. So I painted the nose black and masked out the vents, as you can see there, but I'm afraid they were too big. They go too far down really, but it was the only way I could recover that. The white bands on the tailroom were painted and masked. Then the two main colours used were Vallejo Model Air 71017 Russian Green and 71008 Blue RLM 65. I did the green first, as the masking would be easier that way round. With the masking removed and a bit of tidying up was necessary, but overall it didn't look too bad. I must admit the white bands gave me a few headaches and I had to redo them as well because I actually got paint cracking there. The undercarriage and the tail boom buffer frame were fiddly affairs of poorly moulded spindly rods that were attached with super glue. I must admit, first time I attached those it went a bit skew with, so I had to take them off, reattach them. Yes. Yeah. The decals went on okay with microset and microsole. Then the tone was adjusted and blended with Tamiya weathering powders. That was especially true for the markings. The panel lines were highlighted with pencil. The final touch was to add an aerial wire made from fishing line. I'm sometimes in two minds about doing this, but I think in this case it did add something to the model. And there we are, finished. My first build of 2019. I'm actually quite happy with this. I know it's not the most interesting of colour schemes, but it's a representation of the type, a representation of quite a significant type. As I said before, the red star on the back is a little bit too big, and I would have liked to know what the correct location for the other stenciling was. I also have to say on this model, it's not sitting quite right. The nose wheels are too low, so it should sit more towards the tail end with more of a general nose up attitude. But that said, it looks like a Mil-4, so I'm not complaining too much. And then we have a better view of those vents that I had the issue with. It's been at least a year since I last built a helicopter, so this project was long overdue. It's great to finally have an Mi-4 on the shelf, and it fills a key slot in the history of Russian aviation. This was an enjoyable, focused 3-week project. I would, however, suggest that if you must have a Mil-4, get the Hobby Boss kit. It is so much better on so many levels. If, however, you want a challenge, by all means, get the KP offering. With this vid, I'm finally up to date with my build vids. So expect to see 1 or 2 more helicopter builds this year. So now I can focus on a Su-34 fallback. So thank you for watching. Happy modelling. God bless. Take care guys. This is Chancellor North Wales signing out.